Hey guys, it's Mr. Burns here. We're going to talk about Unit 2 vocabulary set number 1. There will be two sets of vocabulary this unit. It's a long unit. Unit 2 on election and political process. It's about a 6 to 7 week unit. We'll bleed into the second quarter a little bit with this one. So, two sets of vocab. They're both kind of longer. It's a little bit more of a difficult unit. So make sure you are reviewing your vocab using Quizlet and really taking this unit seriously. So remember the directions. You write the definitions down for homework. You do the other two columns on the right by the date of the due date, which is also going to be a quiz date. Okay. All right, so the first word going down is precinct. And here's our precincts in Fairfax County on this picture. Most of you are going to live in the Braddock or the Springfield precinct. You notice that Fairfax City is cut out because they're kind of separate. Robinson is somewhere in this area right where the cursor is. So if you live in Fairfax Station or Clifton, you live in the Springfield district. If you live in Burke, most of Burke and Fairfax, you live in the Braddock district, Braddock precinct. All right, we have a registrar. This is one way that you can register to vote is by going to the registrar. We have a registrar at our school who keeps track of records and who keeps track of information, important data information. Usually confidential information. All right, third word is a resident. So remember you have to be a resident of of the United States, of your state, and of your precinct in order to vote in an election. Okay, you have to be a resident of your precinct and of your state in order to register to vote and then vote in an election. All right, the primary election. So there's two different kinds of elections. We're talking about the primary. Primary means first, like primary school or elementary school, primary school. And this is held usually well before Election Day, in the summer, in the spring, before the November Election Day. And this is where candidates of the same political party go head to head and try to get the nomination to be put on the ballot for the general election in November. Okay. And then you have, on the next page, you have the general election. This is like, whereas the primary election is like the playoffs where teams from the same division are playing each other or conference, the general election is like the championship game. It's like where the champion from one conference and the champion from another conference, like the Super Bowl, are going head to head to see who wins the election. Okay, so this is the one that takes place in November. It's usually a Republican and a Democrat. Sometimes there's a third party candidate. They don't win very often, but they are usually on the ballot to bring up new issues, and that's the general election. All right, so then you have the campaign. A campaign is just the competition, the game itself, right? And this takes place from, well prior to the actual elections in November. Campaigning is done through advertising, through speeches, through forums, and going door to door and working, making phone calls and sending out advertisements. So this is a campaign. Okay, and here's an example of Kennedy and Johnson in the '60s. All right. Next is a candidate. The candidate is actually the team or the person that is running, right? In the sports analogy, the team would be the candidate. And this is the person who is usually supported by his or her political party. They run on that ticket, as they call it, and they are the one running for political office. All right, next we have to nominate. Nominate is when a candidate is chosen to run for that party. Originally, they throw their name in the hat, and then after the primary elections kind of conclude at the party convention, they usually nominate one of the candidates that either got the most votes or the most, did the best in that primary election period. All right, next we're going to go to political party. And political parties formed in the early 1800s. You have the Republicans and the Democrats now. We've had a lot more different political parties in the past that we will talk about, but these are a group, they usually have a similar set of values. They don't believe the same thing in everything, but generally they have similar values and similar beliefs, and they go under the name of a Republican or a Democrat or a third party in order to win an election. All right. A watchdog. This is one of the functions or jobs of political parties to make sure that that within their party that they are monitoring the political parties make sure that the people in their party are making good decisions, are not acting in a corrupt manner, not wasting funds, political funds. So acting as a watchdog against corruption. Okay, and then we have a platform. Usually think of a platform as like a stage or something you stand on. So in civics, think of a platform as something you stand for or what you believe in. It could be it's usually like a list of beliefs that are adopted by a party and by a candidate, and usually they are spelled out. A lot of platforms now are more like online, but here's an example of one from the Progressive Party, 1912, led by Theodore Roosevelt. Okay. Reform. Form again. Reform. Form again. Make changes. Improve things. One of the words you'll often hear is reforming healthcare, reforming gun rights, reforming the economy or tax codes. So politicians and political parties are always trying to make things better, especially for the country, but especially for the people who believe in their party platform. All right, I think we're on the last page now. We have a spectrum. Political spectrum. Any spectrum is a range of something from one extreme to another. So here's the political spectrum. You could also think of it as like a color spectrum, really dark in color to really light in color, from one extreme to the other. That's usually what spectrum is used. A light spectrum, really bright to really dark or dull or light. Okay, and here you have the far left is the liberal. Then you have the kind of center left is the Democrat. Then the middle is kind of the moderate. The center right is the Republican, and the far right is the conservative. All right. So here's the liberal. Again, liberal are usually more for change and for progress, or you might hear the word progressive. That's kind of the new word going around for the people who are more liberal. Okay, they're usually left on the political spectrum. They usually vote for Democrats. They might vote for a third-party candidate that's more liberal. That's, again, liberal meaning kind of like, a liberal scoop of ice cream would be like, whoa, very liberal with the ice cream, a lot. Okay. All right, moderates in the middle. Okay, most of America is here, although over the last, decade or so, it seems like we've been going kind of polarizing and less people are in the middle. But in theory, most people are either a Republican, a Democrat, or a moderate, and they're not really too far to the extreme. All right, and our last word here is conservative. They're usually to the right of the political spectrum. They're more about tradition and about how the way things are and how the way things were, and kind of maybe more of a throwback. And they're usually to the right on the political spectrum. Okay, so Republican. We usually vote for a Republican or a third-party candidate who's more conservative. All right, so you should be completing this for homework by the day of the quiz, which has been posted in class. If you have any questions about the vocab, come see me. If you need to borrow colored pencils or anything, you can do that during raise. You can do that during class time when we are finished with the lesson. Okay, signing off. Have a great day.